Should you book Ultimate Europe? Let me help you decide whether or not this trip is actually for you. Yes, Ultimate Europe Tour is on everybody's bucket list. And if you're kind of on the fence about it, or maybe you've already booked it and you want to know what to expect, what to pack, how much spending money you're gonna need, stick around because we're diving into this tour with a lot of behind the scene looks and no sugarcoating. These are the categories that we are going to be talking about in order to help guide you along a little better, starting with the basics and whether or not this trip is for you. If you've already booked and you want to get into a little bit more detail about the trip, feel free to skip to the next one. Because even though I'm an ambassador for EF, I still don't think that their travel style is for everybody. Most of the F trips are for people who like doing stuff. People who would actually benefit from an itinerary-based tour. If you're more of a vacationer who would rather lounge by the beach all day sipping on a pina colada, or you're more of a nature person, then you should consider doing these instead. Ultimate Europe is a fast-paced trip because you're changing your city every 2 to 3 days. And even though you do have a lot of free time to do whatever you want, I think you're going to be wasting your money if you choose to do absolutely nothing on those days. We will sleep when we're home. With that being said, I want to share a discount code for you to use towards your first booking. With this code, you'll get an extra $100 off your booking on top of any sale that EF is having at that time. And you'll also be helping me to continue traveling with them so I can do more reviews like these. One thing that nobody really talks about with Ultimate Europe is how much time you'll actually be on the road for this trip. I actually added up exactly how many hours we spent on the bus during this whole tour, which I will share with you guys in a bit. But first, here are some tips to help prepare you for these long bus rides. Number one, and probably the most important, this is your time to sleep. Do not take it for granted. And also, I do not recommend that you drink a lot of water right before or during these long road trips. They do try to make bathroom stops throughout the ride, but it is really uncomfortable when you really have to pee and there's no bathrooms available within like miles of where you are. Some of the buses will have charging ports and others will not, so always bring a portable battery pack as well. You do not want your phone to die and you'll have to just sit there staring at the ceiling for hours on end. This is one of those must-pack items that we will talk about in just a bit. But the main mode of transportation is obviously by coach bus, which we spent a total of 49 hours in, which is almost like 2 days. But honestly, I loved it because I thought it was awesome that we got to see the landscape outside of the major cities in these countries. So, especially when we were driving around Switzerland, I highly recommend that you stay awake for that one. Our tour director went as far as waking the entire bus up over the mic. She said that this is too beautiful for you to miss. What are the accommodations like? Let's talk about the stays. Everyone always wants to know about the hostels. I did book the essential version of this trip. If you book the essential version of this trip, you can have anywhere from 4 to 8 people in your room. This really just depends on the city and the hostel. And your tour director will usually let you pick your own roommates after the first few cities. If you do book the plus version of this trip, you'll only be sharing a room with one other person and the hotels will be much nicer, which is why it's more expensive. I was actually pretty impressed with most of the places that we stayed in, even the one in Amsterdam, which was rated like the worst hostel in Europe. I was expecting much worse, which is why I was super surprised when I saw it because it looked like it was newly renovated and super clean. The one in Switzerland, that one was my absolute favorite one. It looked like something out of a dream and I wish that we got to stay longer. It's 8 something in the morning and there's just this noise outside the window of our hostel in Switzerland. I'm like, those sound like bells. And then I look out the window and look what I see. It's cows. The only one that I didn't like was the generator in London. The location was awesome, which I kind of understand why they kept this hostel, but the communal bathrooms just made me feel like I was back in college and not in a good way. And the rooms were also tiny, so it was really hard to kind of move around it with our bags everywhere. It was just not fun. I also did get stuck in the bathroom in the hostel in Prague. The humidity from the showers made the doors get stuck and I was in there for like 5 minutes before I actually was able to get out. It was scary. But that hostel actually didn't suck. The rooms were very spacious. There were multiple bathrooms in there, but it didn't have an elevator. So for those people that packed big bags, it's not fun for them. I will put a full list of all the places that we stayed in for this tour and the number of roommates that we had in each place. But one thing to keep in mind is that EF has contracts with different places in these cities and they book based on the number of travelers and what's available for that season. So your stays might be different than the ones that I had. Here's a plus though, most of the places that we stayed in did have blow dryers, so that is a point for the girls. They do always provide a full list of the actual accommodations that you'll have on your trip a few weeks before you leave, and it'll be right in the EF app. So you'll be able to creep all you want as soon as you get those. What should I pack? This is one of the most asked questions for people who book this trip. Do I recommend that you bring a big check bag? No. And the reason why is that some of the hostels don't have elevators, so unless you have the arm strength to haul that thing up and down flights of stairs, then you'll be much better off with a carry-on and a backpack.
She's a little heavy.
And sometimes the buses also won't be able to drop you off like right in front of the hostels, so you'll have to drag those bags across a few blocks, sometimes on cobblestone streets. So Ultimate Europe was my biggest packing challenge to date, and I still can't believe I fit 2 months of stuff in a carry-on and a backpack. I say 2 months because I spent 10 days in Portugal before starting Ultimate Europe, and it would have been so easy if I just had gone in the summer, but my trip was in the fall. So we were traveling through drastic changes in climate, so what you pack will highly depend on when you're going. Packing for a summer climate will obviously be much easier because your clothes will be less bulky, so you can fit more stuff in the bag. But if you're going in the spring, fall, or winter, the biggest hack when it comes to packing for this trip is to focus on a capsule wardrobe and layering. I basically came up with all the outfits that I was going to wear on the trip ahead of time. I did a lot of mixing and matching with the same items so I could bring as little as possible but still have a lot of choices. And there will also be plenty of opportunities for you to do laundry. I wrote down a list of essentials, things other than clothes that you should also bring. An adapter, you're definitely going to need it. An umbrella and rain boots, especially if you're going in the fall. It rained during our entire trip. I had to buy an umbrella. I made the mistake of not bringing water resistant shoes. Also bring a towel because 1 or 2 hostels won't give them to you for some reason. A pillow or something comfortable to lay on to help you sleep on the bus. Ooh, almost none of the hostels had clothing irons, and I rolled a lot of my clothes to fit everything in the bag so they were wrinkly, and trying to get them to look nice and presentable was kind of tough. This is the spray that we use to try to de-wrinkle our clothes, but if you can pack a little mini clothing iron in your bag, even better. I'll attach a full packing list for you guys in the description, and if you want me to do a detailed packing video of this trip, leave a thumbs up in the comments and I will get to it. How much money should I bring? I can't tell you exactly how much money to bring for this trip because everyone is different. But what I can do is help you organize your finances by telling you what most of your money is actually going to be spent on, which are number 1, food, and number 2, excursions, and number 3 will be souvenirs and miscellaneous things. Let's talk about the food situation. The only meal that is included on this tour is breakfast every single morning, which will be offered at the hostel or hotel that you're staying in at a specific time slot. So if you oversleep, you miss a time slot, you miss breakfast. For lunch and dinner, you're practically on your own. If you are on a tight budget, I do recommend that you do grab and go for these meals instead of dining in because it's just much cheaper. But if you do decide to treat yourself and dine in every once in a while, I do not recommend that you do it in these cities because they are the most expensive. Prague, Italy, and Greece are the cheapest when it comes to food, so you can sit down for all your meals if you want and not be broke afterwards. Should I be worried if I have food restrictions? For people with food restrictions, vegetarians and vegans, you should be fine all around. The only thing that I will bring up is gluten allergies, specifically for celiacs. Just be careful in Italy because we did have a celiac who kept getting sick from cross-contamination and the poor girl was hurting. EF recommends that you budget $50 a day for food, which now that I'm looking at my credit card statements, it makes a lot of sense. The second thing that you'll be spending most of your money on are excursions. Like if you're planning to do a lot and see a lot of tourist attractions on your trip, whatever is listed on the EF itinerary is included, but anything extra is not. Like if you want to go up the Eiffel Tower, you'll have to do that on your own. Or entry to the Colosseum in Rome, the tour will take you like around it, but you won't actually get to go inside, so you'll have to do that on your own time. With your own money. And then your tour director will also have their own list of activities for you to participate in. These are things like pasta making in Rome or wine tasting in Venice, which had nothing to do with EF, and they're obviously optional. But I highly recommend that you do at least some of them because these are the times that you get together with a lot of the people from your group, and some of the best memories that I have from our trip are from these excursions. I also want to take a moment to give a shout out to our tour director, Vicky, because she was absolutely amazing. She had so much stuff planned for us. Number 3, miscellaneous things and souvenirs. By miscellaneous things, I mean like extra toiletries, toothpaste, medication. There are pharmacies and Sephoras everywhere you go, so don't freak out about running out of things because you will have the chance to buy more. Will I make friends? This is one of my favorite questions. A lot of first-time travelers always ask this one. If you are a bit on the shy side and you're really worried about this, I do recommend that you sign up for extra excursions during the first few days because that will give you an opportunity to to get to know the other travelers a little bit more. I literally went home crying because I did meet some incredible people. I do know a lot of people who have met their best friends or significant other on these EF trips. I just knew that I was gonna miss my friends so much, but we already have a reunion trip booked for next year, so catch us in Japan in 2025. Let's talk about this itinerary for a bit. It is a bit hard to go into exact detail with the Ultimate Europe itinerary because it is such a long trip, and there's lots of free days embedded into it where everyone can kind of go off and do whatever they like. But if you do want to see a little bit more behind the scenes of what it was like for me, or if you're looking for inspiration, things to do during your free time, I did vlog the whole thing and separated them by city to make it easier to watch. So you can start right here on the first stop of the trip, and I will see you in Barcelona.